Okay, so you might look at a plant and think it's just kind of sitting there, but you'd be wrong. Plants are actually master strategists in the game of life. And today, we're going to crack open their playbook and look at the absolutely ingenious ways they make sure the next generation doesn't just survive, but thrives.
So let's start with a little puzzle, one you might find right in your own kitchen. You know you can take a piece of a potato, stick it in the ground, and grow a whole new potato plant, right? But wait a minute, where are the seeds? It kind of feels like it breaks the first rule of plant biology we ever learned.
Well, it's not breaking any rules at all. It's actually showing us a secret chapter in the plant playbook. It turns out they have two completely different master strategies for making more plants, and each one has its own amazing set of pros and cons.
So, what is a plant's ultimate mission? Really, what's the point of it all? It's the same as any living thing: reproduction, to pass on its genes. And to get that job done, they've evolved not one, but two totally different paths to success.
Now, the textbook definition is pretty straightforward. You're just making new individuals from their parents. But think about it. That simple drive is the engine behind all of life. It's the force that has fueled millions and millions of years of incredible evolution on our planet.
And here's where we see the two game plans side by side. On one hand, you have asexual reproduction. Think of it as making a perfect clone. You only need one parent, there are no seeds, and it's super fast and makes an identical copy. On the other hand, you've got sexual reproduction. This is more like a genetic lottery. It needs two special reproductive cells, what we call gametes, to join up. It's slower, but the result is a totally unique individual that grows from a seed.
All right, let's dive into that first strategy, making clones. And you guessed it, this is the answer to our potato mystery. Asexual reproduction isn't just one thing either. It's like a whole toolkit of different cloning techniques. The one we see in potatoes is called vegetative propagation, where a brand new plant just grows from a piece of its parent, like a stem or a root. But as you can see here, other life forms use different methods, like budding, or fragmentation, where little pieces just break off and start a new life, or even releasing tiny spores. Now, the most important thing to remember here is that these new plants are genetically identical to the parent. They are literal clones. They have the exact same DNA. And that means if the parent plant is perfectly happy and successful in its environment, its kids will be too. It's a strategy of perfect, reliable replication. So why would a plant choose this strategy? Well, it comes down to one word: speed. A plant grown this way, as a clone, grows up and makes fruit way faster than one that has to start all the way from a tiny seed. If the conditions are just right, it is the most efficient way to just dominate an area.
Okay, now for strategy number 2. This is the one we're probably all a bit more familiar with. And the absolute star of this show is, of course, the flower. You see, flowers are basically these incredibly sophisticated reproductive machines. Let's break down the key parts. You have the stamen, that's the male part, and it produces pollen. And then you have the pistil, which is the female part, and it holds the ovules, and inside those ovules is the female gamete. Now, for anything to happen, that pollen has to get from a stamen to a pistil. If that happens on the very same plant, we call it self-pollination. But if that pollen travels to a flower on a completely different plant, that's cross-pollination, and that is where the real genetic shuffling begins. Once a pollen grain lands, this incredible journey kicks off. The pollen grain actually grows a tiny tube all the way down through the pistil, almost like it's searching for an ovule. The male gamete then travels down this tube, and when it finds the female gamete, they fuse. That fusion creates one single fertilized cell, which we call a zygote. And this is the payoff for that whole journey. After fertilization, the flower goes through this amazing transformation. The ovary around the ovules starts to swell and ripen, and it becomes the fruit. And inside, each of those fertilized ovules develops into a seed, a perfect little package containing the blueprint for a whole new, unique plant. But, just making a seed is only half the battle. Now the plant has a brand new problem to solve. How do you get that seed away from home? It's time for what I like to call the Great Seed Escape.
So why is this so important? Why all the effort? Why can't the seed just, drop to the ground and grow right there next to its parent?
Well, the answer is all about competition. Just imagine if all the new seedlings grew in the exact same spot. They'd be fighting each other and their own parent for every drop of water, every ray of sunlight, and all the nutrients in the soil. By spreading out or dispersing, the seeds give the new plants a real fighting chance, and it lets the whole species find and colonize totally new places.
And this is where plants get seriously creative. I mean, they've basically hired nature's courier service to get their seeds on the move. Some, like maple seeds, grow these amazing little helicopter wings so they can spin on the wind. Others, like the coconut, become these unsinkable boats that can float on ocean currents for months. Some seeds even develop little hooks and spines so they can hitch a ride on animal fur. And get this, some pods literally explode, flinging their seeds as far as they can.
So there you have it, the two playbooks. You've got the fast, perfect copy on one side, and the slower, riskier genetic shuffle on the other. Two very different, but equally successful paths to survival.
And this chart really nails the core trade-off here. The cloning strategy gives you incredible speed, but you get very little genetic diversity. It's a huge bet that the environment is going to stay exactly the same. The sexual strategy is slower, but it creates this incredible portfolio of diverse offspring, giving the species the flexibility it needs to survive whatever the future might throw at it.
Which brings us right back to where we started. This fundamental drive to produce your own kind, it's what all life is about. And plants, with their amazing dual playbook, have absolutely mastered it in more ways than one.
So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. Is it better to clone for consistency, to be a fast, reliable copy that's perfectly built for today? Or is it better to gamble on diversity, to be a slower genetic lottery ticket that's ready for an uncertain future? In the long, long game of survival on our ever-changing planet, which strategy do you think really wins?